What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, YouTube subscribers and the like? It's your boy Blue Henry back at you with another one. And today we're going to talk about, was the 44th president secretly gay or bisexual? Now I'm going to start this video off saying that I have no problem with people's sexual orientation. You do what you want to do in the privacy of your own home or whatever. I have no problem with people's sexual orientation, LGBTQ, nothing like that. I'm just reporting and researching. That's all, and conveying it to people who want to hear it. That's all. Nothing less, nothing more. So, first of all, via New York Post, they kind of described the letter that he wrote to his ex-girlfriend in 1982. Basically, one of the major points that relates to this topic that the 44th president mentioned was, you see, this quote unquote, you see, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination, end quote. This is what the 44th president, that was president from 2008 to 2016 in the United States of America, wrote to his ex-girlfriend in 1982. Probably his college days, my boy was getting wild. Let's just be real. My boy was getting wild. He was on them drugs, allegedly. And probably was getting wild out there in the streets, you know, in college. Who knows? The New York Post described the letter as androgynous, which means partly male and partly female in appearance of indeterminate sex. So basically they described the letter as him describing himself as, you know, both sexes, or like being just one with himself, I guess, you know, going both ways. Sound like bisexual to me. And if you making love to men daily in your imagination, and you bold enough to even send that letter to your ex-girlfriend, I'm gonna go on the limb and say, man, sometimes people, they don't want to come out the closet, so they bury things very deep within themselves. And that could have been, in this situation, that could have been that. Could have been burying his true feelings deep into himself till it leaked out to where he wrote that letter to his ex-girlfriend. Now, if you were an adult at that time, which I was, I had just graduated high school 2 years after Obama, the 44th president, was elected into office. If you familiar with his administration, he did a lot for the LGBT. At that time, it wasn't even LGBTQ plus. It was just LBGT. So for the alphabet community, Obama did a lot. He did a lot for them, I would say more than any other group, social group, status, race, culture, anything. He did a lot for the alphabet community. I think that's what his, mostly his whole administrative campaign was surrounded around, was supporting the LGBTQ community. So you take what you want to from that information. I'm gonna go over some of the laws, directives, and bills that he helped or passed. Okay. And this info is coming from whitehouse.archives.gov. This is coming from a government site. These are the directives or laws and bills that Obama helped support or pass. So, number one, President Obama worked with Congress to pass and sign into law the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act into law in October 2009, which extends the coverage of federal hate crimes law to include attacks based on the victim's actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, I'm going to go out on the limb and say I don't think anybody should be attacked. I think everybody should be protected under the law from violence, no matter what creed, religion, sex, or sexual orientation you identify yourself as. But I'm just making the case for the question at hand. Was President Obama a homosexual or a bisexual man during his lifetime? Well, I mean, if he was, he still is. So is he a bisexual or homosexual man? Who knows? I don't know. I'm just making a case. I'm just asking a question. So he also banned don't ask, don't tell if you were around that time of you served in the Army or the armed forces. You know, if you served in the armed forces before 2010, because he made this he signed this bipartisan legislation on December 22, 2010. So if you was in the military before that, you are familiar with don't ask, don't tell. It used to be like an unwritten, or I would say written rule. It was kind of unwritten, because you could kind of tell if a guy is kind of feminine or gay, or a woman is gay or not, as long as they didn't just like parade around and you know, put it in your face. They didn't really care in the military. But it was a law in the military. You couldn't just be openly gay in the military. You can't show up at the military events with your boyfriend or girlfriend. That's not really going down. Couldn't do that. He banned that in 2010. The president signed bipartisan legislation to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell on December 22, 2010, allowing gay, lesbian, and bisexual Americans to serve openly in the armed forces without fear of being dismissed from service because of who they are and who they love, putting into motion the end of discriminatory policy that ran counter to American values. I didn't know homosexuality was part of the American values, but okay, moving on. The third point, he also legalized same-sex marriage. In February 2011, the President and Attorney General announced that the Department of Justice would no longer defend the Defense of Marriage Act's provision defining marriage as only between a man and a woman, leading to Supreme Court's landmark decisions holding the act unconstitutional. The administration has long advocated for a constitutional guarantee of marriage equality for same-sex couples, a position the Supreme Court vindicated in its historic decision, Obergefell versus Hodges. So he was a big part in them legalizing, and that bill running through Supreme Court. So he legalized same-sex marriage. You know, that's another point. So, you know, you be the judge. I would say I would go. I mean, I'm not gonna. I think what I think. Y'all can think what y'all think. But was the 44th President Obama a homosexual, a secretly gay man? You know, portraying that he is a straight man? I don't know. You be the judge. Blue Henry out.